of their human tellers, and by the year 2000, 90% of all bank customers used teller machines, or ATMs. Business phone operators have almost all been replaced by computerized voice answering systems. Post office tellers are being replaced by self-service machines, while cashiers are being replaced by computerized kiosks. There isn't one area of the service industry that isn't being affected by computerized automation. Economist Stephen Roach has warned the service sector has lost its role as America's unbridled engine of job creation. Given this reality, where is the emerging new sector to employ all of the newly displaced workers? There isn't one. And while economists struggle to create models to deal with the issue of nearly unstoppable unemployment, most refuse to consider what is really needed in order to prevent a total breakdown of society. The solution lies not in attempting to fix the issues that have emerged, but rather it is time we transcend the system in its entirety. For the system of monetary exchange, along with capitalism itself, is now completely obsolete in the wake of technological creativity. If people do not have jobs, they cannot support the economy by purchasing anything. This reality is the final proof that our current system is now completely out of date, and if we want to deter riots in the streets and poverty on a scale never before seen, we are going to have to revise our traditionalized notions about how society functions at the fundamental level. We require a new social system that is updated to present-day knowledge and modern methods. Part 2. What is relevant? In this section, we will discuss the idea of natural law, specifically pointing out the symbiotic and emergent nature of the physical world, the scientific method, which is the most effective technique of decision-making we have to date, and the important concept of dynamic equilibrium, which expresses the most foundational ecological factor to our survival. We will also show how, through the intelligent use of technology and proactive resource management, we have more than enough to go around on this planet, enabling an accessible abundance for all the world's people. Natural law. There is a tremendous amount of noise in our system. In other words, the fundamentals of life have been lost in a sea of social, occupational, and financial obligations, many of which are largely artificial. For example, the need for money and income puts the human into a position where choice is often very limited. Usually, the jobs found do not reflect the genuine interests of that particular person, nor the true interests of society as a whole. If we were to examine the occupations that exist today, we would tend to find that a great majority of them serve no larger function than the perpetuation of cyclical consumption to keep the economy going. This arbitrariness constitutes a tremendous waste of life and resources. Consequently, the entire educational system in the modern day is nothing more than a cookie-cutter processing plant that prepares humans for predefined occupational roles. This element of human life has become so traditionally ingrained that many falsely consider the nature of having a job some form of human instinct. Even parents will blindly ask their kids, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" as though there was only one thing to prefer. Putting the traditional norms and modes of conduct in society aside for a moment, let's stop and consider what is actually relevant. Let's pose the question, what are the near empirical aspects of nature, and what do these understandings teach us about how we should govern our conduct on this planet? Natural Law 1. Every human needs adequate nutrition, clean air, and clean water, and therefore must respect the symbiotic environmental processes relevant to those needs. Most people today do not understand or consider the interconnectivity of nature and the chain of processes by which our food, air, and water currently come about. However, if we recognize, examine, and learn from these processes, a logical train of reasoning coupled with suggestive inference will guide us to more appropriate human behaviors that will help fulfill our needs. For example, water and air are naturally abundant planetary resources that only require that we, the human population, maintain them and preserve their sources. Sadly, our impulsive, narrow-sighted profit system has seen to it that usable water is now approaching crisis scarcity, for industry continues to pollute the system at every turn. In the United States alone, about 3 million tons of toxic chemicals are released into the environment a year, contributing to birth defects, immune system disorders, cancer, and many other serious health problems. The symbiotic relationship of natural processes has a built-in frame of reference, which is accessible by understanding how the world actually works via scientific investigation. Very simply, our behavior should be guided by the priority of seeking the highest optimization of circumstances that preserve and maximize the abundance and quality of our necessities of life. Sadly, this is not happening. The fact is, our sustainability is under severe threat by the current methods we are using. The monetary system continues to operate with the interest of short-term gain at the expense of long-term destruction. As natural law denotes, we need high-quality air, food, and water to live. Therefore, we must overcome any practices which disturb or create the propensity to disturb the symbiotic environmental processes which keep our basic needs in order. If we don't, the consequences of our violation of this law could put us past the point of no return environmentally, and thus the survival of the human race will be in question. Natural law 2. The only constant is change, and human understandings are always in transition. There is no evidence to support the idea that anything we think is true today will maintain its integrity tomorrow. While certain observed natural phenomenon may seem near empirical, based on current scientific evidence, the specifics of each notion will always be altered, for our tools and methods of analysis are always changing and hopefully improving. In the words of C.J. Kaiser, absolute certainty is a privilege of uneducated minds and fanatics. A cursory glance at widely defended historical notions, from the earth being flat to the sun revolving around the earth, teaches us that intellectual change is constant, and in turn, humans must keep as open a mind as possible to new information, even if it challenges that person's sense of identity. Everything we think and know are only probabilities, and with modern methods of analysis which have proven to have proactive benefits to society over long periods of time, we can now weigh our understandings and beliefs on an evolving, sliding scale, ranging from least probable to most probable. This is based not on human opinion or subjectivity, but on concrete feedback responses from the natural world. And this point brings us to the scientific method. Nature itself has its own set of rules, and it doesn't have the capacity to recognize or care about what you or anyone else wants to believe is true. Given this reality, it is in our best interest to learn and align with nature as best we can. The best known method for the discovery and application of the laws of nature is termed the scientific method. The scientific method basically has 3 steps: recognizing a new idea or problem that needs to be solved, the use of logical reasoning to create a hypothesis, considering all information available, and the testing of that hypothesis in the physical world through observation. The scientific method of inquiry is what has allowed the human species to gain comprehension of themselves and the physical world. For better or for worse, it is what's behind virtually every advancement that has improved the lives of the human species. However, most in our romanticized world still tend to view science as a cold, heartless medium, while citing distorted human value abominations such as the atomic bomb in refutation of the scientific perspective. In reality, science and technology are only tools, and like anything else, they can be used for productive or destructive purposes. That is our choice. Dynamic equilibrium. A dynamic equilibrium occurs when 2 or more opposing processes proceed at the same rate. There is an equilibrium that exists in the physical world which dictates, on some level, what the possibilities are for those organisms that utilize the available resources for survival. With respect to our planet, we would call this the carrying capacity of the Earth. The human management of dynamic equilibrium on this planet, which is the most important initial variable regarding the management of society itself, can only come from first understanding what the carrying capacity of the Earth actually is. The needs of the human population must be in balance with the resources of the planet. That being said, let's now examine what we know or can infer about the planetary resources available. The fundamental building blocks of society consist of the following: energy, industrial and technological raw materials, food, air, and water. Energy is the cornerstone of society today. It is one of the most critical factors to all social functionality. The age of oil and fossil fuels, along with all the resulting pollution, is coming to a close. There is no reason to burn fossil fuels at all anymore, other than the profit-oriented vested interest that keeps new clean energy prospects at bay. Remember, the last thing the energy industry wants is abundance, for that translates into a loss of profit in the monetary system. One of the most important sources of energy to recognize today is geothermal power. According to a 2006 MIT report, about 2,000 zettajoules of power is currently tappable